All right. It's another night of Behind Enemy Lines, and this one is big because the 49ers are 3-3 coming off of a loss, but their opponent is also coming off of a loss. This game's going to get interesting. It is a Super Bowl rematch. We're going to talk about it all next. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And like I said, it's Behind Enemy Lines tonight. I am joined by a very, very special guest by the name of Mark Gunnels. He is the Chiefs Coast to Coast podcast, co-host, I guess, with Arrowhead Pride Network, and the host of Mark My Words. He is also very popular on Twitter Spaces with Sports After Dark. Mark, how you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. You're going to the game? Yeah. I early in the season, I thought
Well,
you
I
were.
was I was supposed to, but it didn't work out that way. So I'll be watching it from the house.
I got you. I feel it. Hey, you know what? It's all right. It's watching it from the house is not the worst. I'm actually in
Yeah.
Tampa, so
Um,
no danger of going to the game. I did initially want to go to the game, but once Trey got hurt, I was like, I'm good. So you know how it goes. Anyways, before we get fully into it, you guys in on OBJ? Is this a real thing, you think?
yeah, I talked to some people that are close to the situation. It's definitely a real possibility. They were actually going after him last year as well. So yeah, they're definitely in the market. I think the Bills are in the market as well. Some other
Yeah.
teams, probably the Packers. So yeah, it's a real possibility for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, I just got off work a little bit ago and was kind of catching up on some things and realized that OBJ might be going there. I also have seen a lot of people putting out fake reports of him going to Minnesota, so who knows, but I think the Bills make sense. I think the Chiefs make a ton of sense. Obviously, he's comfortable with the Rams, but they're not winning anything this year. So, man, you guys you guys always seem to figure it out. You guys seem to make huge moves. So, let's jump right into it. So you guys are what? You're 4-2, coming off of a loss against the Bills. You guys have had a bit of an up and down season. You lost to the Colts. You beat some teams within the division, but the season's been a little bit up and down. To what your thoughts were going into the season, has it gone pretty much the way that you expected, or did you expect something a little bit different?
Yeah, it actually has. If you looked at the first 7 games before the bye, because after this game we have a bye week, we've had the hardest first 7 games in the league. Like that was the thing all year. Like the Chiefs' schedule was such a gauntlet, and after the bye, it gets a lot easier. So I even said before the year, if you can go into that bye 5-2, I think you're in a really, really good spot. So they have a chance to do that this Sunday, obviously, and especially considering the reset. Obviously you traded Tyreek Hill, you let Tyrann Mathieu walk, some other guys as well. So you had a pretty hard reset, not a rebuild, but a reset. A lot of young guys that you're depending on, rookies. So I think they're doing really good considering all of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, Mark, because I know that we've talked a little bit back and forth on Twitter, and I said that I thought Josh Allen was the best quarterback in the league, and we had some good back and forth on that. But I've also made a bold prediction going into the season that I thought this was the year that the Chiefs took enough of a backslide where they may not make the playoffs. The AFC West has actually been really bad. Are you surprised by the AFC West as a whole? Did you think the AFC West would be a bit better than what they are?
Yeah, I think everybody did. Especially, I didn't think the Raiders would be this bad. I thought the
Mm.
Raiders would be a lot. I didn't think they'd be 1-4 at this point. Now, I wasn't that high on the Broncos before the year, like some people were, because I don't think a lot of people weren't really watching Russell Wilson the last couple years in Seattle. I know Niner fans probably feel different because he does good against you guys, but outside of those games, he was regressing, man. Like the last couple years, especially in the second half of the season. So I didn't think it was just a quick quarterback plug and play situation there at Denver. Then you got Nathaniel Hackett as your head coach, who's never been a head coach before. That's one thing about the division. I've always said to people in the summer, coaching matters.
It does.
Andy Reid is the Chiefs coach. The Chargers have Brandon Staley. The Broncos have Nathaniel Hackett, and the Raiders have Josh McDaniels. That's a major gap. And considering the Chiefs still have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, that's why it didn't make any sense to me how people thought the Chiefs may miss the playoffs. It's like, does coaching not matter anymore?
It really does, and I think that people really underrate it, especially at the NFL level. Once you have pros, you just expect that things are going to work regardless of the coach, and that's not the way that it does work. And every year we see it, not only with football but basketball. I mean, really any pro sport. How good does it feel just to be a Chiefs fan, knowing that you have a great offensive mind like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and to your point, allows you to compete year after year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been something that Chiefs fans have been wanting forever. I mean, it hasn't always been this way. Trust me, we've been through some hard times as Chiefs fans, especially if you're at least 30 years or above, right? So
Yeah.
it's been a while, man. I mean, I'm not sure how far you go back, but you guys freaking had Joe Montana, then you go to Steve Young. So, I don't think nobody's really feeling sorry for you guys right now, considering what you guys have had in your history.
Yeah, I was born in '83, so I caught the tail end of the Montana stuff and certainly was there for the Steve Young stuff. That was like my childhood hero. Steve Young was my guy, learned to throw left-handed and everything. So yeah, I get it. Nobody has any sympathy for what we're going through, but we really have had a hard time, and we're trying to find our Patrick Mahomes and our Andy Reid, and a lot of people are back and forth on Shanahan and Trey Lance, and we'll see how it plays out. But I really do envy a franchise like yours or the Bills or even the Chargers, who may not have figured out the coach, but they certainly have the quarterback. Just having that franchise quarterback it just makes life a lot easier as a fan. It really does.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, because when you have that quarterback, it's kind of easier to fill in other spots, right? Because if you have one of those guys, you're thinking, okay, well, he can at least elevate the guys around him. That's what the Chiefs' thinking was. That's why they traded Tyreek Hill. They're like, we're not going to pay you $30 million a year when we have Patrick Mahomes. He can make other guys better. People don't believe this, but look at the stats. The Chiefs are the number one scoring offense in the league right now. Without Tyreek Hill, who would have thought that after 6 weeks they're averaging almost 30 points a game? So, when you have that type of guy, you don't really need the top flight talent around him because he can elevate others. Now, obviously, you don't want to just neglect him and not give him no weapon. Because look at Green Bay right now with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
They're struggling bad without Devontae Adams. But I think the difference is the head coach, you got Andy Reid, and you still have that guy named Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, Travis Kelsey is an absolute G, man. It's wow. I can't say enough good things about Travis Kelsey. He is absolutely incredible, and he keeps your offense afloat. I don't know how long he can do it for. I mean, he's like 32, 33, but
33.
yeah, right now he's still at the top of his game, which is absolutely incredible. You talked a lot about rookies and a lot of the turnover that you made from last year, and the 49ers haven't played y'all since the Super Bowl. So give us a player that we don't necessarily know, or most people wouldn't know unless you're a Chiefs fan or watch the Chiefs closely, and just tell us a little bit about that player and why we should know them a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say Trent McDuffie, our first round rookie corner, who's actually on track to come back this week. He played in week 1. He had an injury in Arizona with the turf. He felt kind of weird. He hasn't played since then. But I know in limited action, he still has raised a lot of eyebrows in Kansas City because he's a technician. He doesn't really get targeted. In that Arizona game, he had, I think, 25 snaps, didn't get targeted once. So he's one of those guys that he's always in good position. He's not the best athlete, but he's always in a good position. He has good ball skills. He's not just your typical rookie. Even in preseason, he rarely got targeted because he's always in the good spot. He knows how to use his leverage and things of that nature. And we saw last week against Buffalo, the Chiefs got beat on a couple of those one-on-one opportunities. I think if you have McDuffie out there, I don't think it was going to go down like that. And like I said, he's on track to play this week. He practiced last week. He's practicing again this week. So expect to see him this Sunday.
Didn't he have an end zone pick earlier in the season against someone? I swear I remember.
No, that was the other rookie. That was Jalen Watson.
Okay, all right. So you guys have a couple rookie corners you're relying on, which is crazy because Charvarius Ward, who we love here, by the way, I know that he's a good player. It's crazy that you guys let him go, not only him, but the Honey Badger, and then you rebuild through the draft in that secondary, bring in Reid, and everything is still copacetic. It's absolutely incredible what you guys are doing there and how you continue to just make everything work, it seems like. So kudos to you guys. Give me the matchup that you are the most confident in going into this game against the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, this is a matchup that one of your guys has been looking forward to, and that's Jimmy Ward. It looks like he's going to play this week, right?
It does seem like he's going to play, yes.
Okay, he has a cast on his hand, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so I'm very confident in that matchup with him and Travis Kelsey, considering that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure how his ball skills are going to really play into factor with a cast on his arm, and I would expect Mahomes to go to the well there a lot and test it out. So, yeah, I'm really and I mean, it's not nothing against Jimmy Ward. I think he's a really good player, but if you ask me, I'm probably confident in every matchup Travis Kelsey goes against every Sunday. So it's nothing against him at all. But considering he has that cast on his arm, I really think they're going to test it out a lot.
Well, I'll say this. Jimmy Ward really traditionally does fantastic against tight ends. I mean, you look at his splits against tight ends, nobody gets really anything on him. And this was a matchup that he circled during the offseason. He talked about how the Chiefs and Kelsey, that was the one tight end he wanted to shut down one-on-one. Well, now he hasn't played all year. He's finally coming back, and he's got a cast on his hand. It's not going to play out well. I agree with you. This is not ideal for the 49ers. And even if Hufanga plays, they just don't have that guy that can match Kelsey one-on-one. And so that's going to be a matchup that the 49ers are going to have to look out for. Absolutely. I agree with you on that one. Okay. Give me the matchup you're least confident in.
Yeah, this was easy for me. So while our offensive line is really good, it's really good in the interior from guard, center to guard. But on the tackles is where it's a little vulnerable with Orlando Brown and Wiley. So obviously, if Nick Bosa plays, I'm very, very scared of that matchup on the outside because we know how good Nick Bosa is as a pass rusher, especially with his speed. And those two guys struggle with speed rushers as well. So that's something that I'm definitely concerned about. I mean, obviously, back into that Super Bowl, I mean, he made a lot of plays, probably got held a few times. I'm sure you guys were upset about that. So, yeah, that's definitely one area that I'm concerned about is the edge rusher. Assuming he's going to play. It looks like he is going to play.
Yeah, I think that the consensus was if he was healthy last week, or not healthy, but if it was a playoff game last week, he would have played. It was just one of those. They were on turf again. Probably a matchup they thought they would win going and playing the Falcons. And it just didn't work out that way, so they rested him. Trent Williams should also be back. Charvarius Ward sounds like he's iffy, probably won't play. He just injured his groin last week, so that's unfortunate. And then Jason Verrett as well. I think that's probably fair. You know, Nick Bosa is an absolute stud. I think also just the defensive line as a whole, your offensive line is one of those things that you guys did a great job of going out and revamping it. And last year it looked really good, and it seems like this year it's regressed. Why do you think that is?
So I'm not so sure it regressed. I'm just gonna say as far as Orlando Brown in particular, because he wanted a big deal this offseason.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted to be one of the highest paid left tackles, and the Chiefs, they could come to an agreement, most likely would get tagged after this year. I think something maybe psychologically is going on in his head because he's regressed a lot. Him as an individual, like I said, the interior is really good, but the tackles is where it's a little shaky. And I think mainly with Orlando Brown, he doesn't have that security, so he may be pressing a little bit to get that contract after this season because his play, like I said, is dramatically regressed after last year when that shouldn't happen. In year two with the system, he should only get better. So that's been a major concern as far as the left tackle goes in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And left tackle is obviously a huge deal, but Patrick Mahomes is a wizard, so it doesn't seem to matter. Just give him a little bit of time so he doesn't have to throw while he's horizontal to the field like he did in the Super Bowl, and he'll be completely fine. So we talked about OBJ, but also McCaffrey's out there right now, and the Chiefs have been rumored with him. The Chiefs have been rumored with Moore as well, the wide receiver in Carolina. Out of the guys that I just talked about, which one would you prefer that the Chiefs go after if they were able to get one of those guys?
Yeah, the CMC, I want no part of that, especially with his contract. And considering I like our running back room. Like we don't have like that main star guy, but we do have nice solid pieces. You got CH. We got the rookie Pacheco, who I'm really high on. I want him to get more touches because he runs very violent and he's very fast. And you still got your former Niner, McKinnon,
Yeah.
who he looks good in flashes. I mean, when he gets the opportunity, he still shows the speed. He runs very physical. So I'm comfortable with that room. And the main thing is Andy Reid is not going to run the ball anyway. He doesn't commit to the run. So I'm not going to invest that much in a running back when we don't even run the ball that much anyway. So that makes no sense to me. Now, as far as DJ Moore, I would love that because he's on a nice, friendly, team-friendly contract. He's a guy that's been underutilized in Carolina. I think you get him for a pretty good deal. I would be willing to give away maybe a second or a third for DJ Moore, considering his contract is so team-friendly. And you would have him, for, I think, for the next 2 or 3 years before you even have to worry about negotiating a new contract.
Yeah, he just signed a deal in the offseason, but he got hosed. For as good as he is, he got absolutely hosed in that deal. And then, of course, the team's a dumpster fire, so he hasn't been performing at the level he's used to. He's basically a lock every year for like 7 touchdowns and 1,000 yards or 1,200 yards, and it's just not the case this year because they don't have anybody to throw him the ball. It's really unfortunate, but he's a hell of a player. I agree. If you guys got more, that's the one that would scare me the most. If I'm the rest of the AFC and if the 49ers are lucky enough to make the Super Bowl and the Chiefs are opposite of them again, that's not a player that I would want to see on Kansas City. Now, I may have heard this wrong, but I thought I had heard that one of your linebackers is out as well. What injuries are we looking at for the Kansas City Chiefs come Sunday?
So actually, he's coming back this week.
Of course he is.
Yeah. So Willie Gay, who's actually a guy I was going to mention as far as a guy that you may not know about. It was between him and McDuffie. So Willie Gay served a 4-game suspension. It was nothing to do with injury. It was like a domestic situation. I might want to get into that. But yeah, he has served a 4-game suspension, and he's coming back this week, ironically, against you guys. And he's our most athletic linebacker, and we sorely missed him the last 4 games because he's one of those sideline-to-sideline linebackers. I believe this is year 3 for him. And a lot of people around Kansas City expect him to make that Pro Bowl type of leap because he's a guy we picked in the 2nd round. He has a high ceiling, and he's one of those guys too. He's our best cover linebacker. We throw him on tight ends and things of that nature. So I'm really excited to see him back along with Nick Bolton, who's already one of the best tackling linebackers in the league. So I think those two together can be a really, really dynamic linebacker duo for the next 4 to 5 years.
Do you feel like the run defense has suffered since he's gone out as well?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Because he's one of those guys, he can fill the gap quickly. He has a good nose for the football. And like I said, he's a true sideline-to-sideline linebacker that can chase down speedy guys.
Yeah, I really feel like Kansas City low-key got young and athletic on the defensive side of the ball, and I think it's showing out well. I know that maybe if you look at some of the stats, they haven't necessarily done the best job against the run, but I really feel like that is a key get back for you. And of course, it comes in the week where the 49ers are struggling on offense. They want to establish the run. It's not going to be any easier this week. This is going to be Kansas City at full strength, at least when it comes to the run game. So 49er fans, you absolutely have to get ready for that. So that being said, finish this sentence for me. The Chiefs win if.
The Chiefs win if, like you mentioned, they contain the run game. I'm not expecting them to shut down the run game, but at least force the Niners into obvious 3rd down passing situations, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, even 3rd and 6. And I think you love that matchup there, right? Because we know Jimmy G is known for giving you a couple of freebies a game. Take advantage of that. And then on the other side of the ball, run the ball. Run the ball too, because even if you're not efficient at running the ball, at least have the threat of running the ball, because you don't want Nick Bosa and those guys pinning their ears back on 3rd and long where they know you're going to pass the ball. And then that's how you can get, Mahomes getting a little erratic at times and getting the ball a little quicker than he wants. So I think it's really that simple on both sides of the ball, man. As far as the run game, I think it's very, very important on both sides.
Yeah, I would say for the 49ers, it really comes down to controlling the ball. Anytime that you can keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, that's a win. And that's how you have to beat them, especially with the 49ers who do struggle to score points. For whatever reason, this year is an interesting one. They just can't score points consistently. And so if that's going to be an issue, you cannot allow Patrick Mahomes to get the ball. And if you get lucky and you get a 3 and out, you get a stop, then you better control it for a long time again and just keep him iced on the side where he can't hurt you. And that's ultimately where the 49ers are going to win. They're going to have to control the ball. They're going to have to be able to run. They're going to have to win on third down. They have to win time of possession and probably win it by a wide margin, in my opinion, if they're going to win this game. So the flip side of that is the Chiefs lose if.
So what you said, I agree with all that. I'm going to also add to this as well. I think the Chiefs lose if they lose the turnover battle. I think the Niners are going to have to steal a couple possessions in this game, because when you're going against a Patrick Mahomes, those type of quarterbacks that can score 30 points on any given game, no matter who the defense is, you're going to have to steal a couple possessions, get a couple freebies, get some short fields to kind of even the playing field a little bit. So I think that's going to be a major key for them, is turning the ball over and not turning the ball over as well. Like you said, ball control, keep Mahomes off the field.
When you look at the San Francisco 49ers and you broke this down with your colleagues this week or your friends, when you look at them, what about this team, the 49ers team, did you see? Like, what were your thoughts overall? If you had a panic meter of win and lose, 10 being the most panic, 1 being the least panic, where are you at and why?
Probably at a 3, about a 3. Just because, like, I think the roster is great all around. I mean, you have playmakers on offense. You got Debo, you got Kittle, you got Brandon Ayuk. I even like Jeff Wilson. I know maybe Niner fans are a little iffy on him. And then obviously defensively, you got a lot of studs, man. Nick Bosa, Ward may or may not play, but you got some guys out there, man, that I really, really like. But it all comes down, and you know what I'm about to say, to Jimmy Garoppolo. And that is why I am not concerned, because I know I have friends that are Niner fans. So I watch kind of Niners really closely from afar, to say the least. And he's going to give you at least 2 to 3 opportunities a game to turn the ball over. He just is. Or he's going to miss a wide open guy streaking down the sideline for a touchdown. We see it all the time. So when I have a guy like a Patrick Mahomes and I'm going to get Jimmy G, I know it's not just one-on-one, but we know quarterback is so important in this league, man. It touched the ball every time. I'm not worried. I'm not. If you had somebody else at quarterback with that roster, I would be really concerned. I really would. But I just can't get there with Jimmy G as your quarterback. I just can't.
Well, they started the season with somebody else, Mark. If Trey Lance was playing, where would your concern meter be at?
It's hard to answer that because we didn't get to see him too much.
You just don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I can't fairly answer that question, because if I would have saw him for the first 6 weeks, then okay, I'm like, oh, he's looking really, really good. But I didn't see nothing, so I can't really answer that. And to be fair, I just really can't.
Yeah, that's totally fair. What are your thoughts on Shanahan? Because the 49ers hired him as an offensive guru, had the number 1 offense in the Falcons. They lose a heartbreaker in the Super Bowl. I don't know if there's a 49er fan that wasn't excited when Shanahan came aboard. It's a name, a family name that runs deep in the 49ers organization. And there's been some ups and downs. It's interesting because his defenses have been incredible. And his offenses, 2019, they were able to put up points, but it seems like a slow regression since then. Just as an outsider's thought, I know you watch a ton of football. I know you keep your eye on a lot of football. What is your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan?
I think he's a great offensive mind. I think the way he's able to scheme stuff up is brilliant. I just think he's handicapped at quarterback. I really think a lot of that has to do with that. I don't think he's able to do exactly what he really wants to do, because he has to call the game a certain way, because he doesn't trust Jimmy to just have the full playbook. So obviously he makes things easier for him. He cuts the field in half. You have these short passes, wide receiver screens, Debo sometimes running the ball as well. I just think everything is kind of just in a box, right? And I think that's why you guys went out and made the move to get Trey Lance. Because I think the thinking was, now I can use the full arsenal, the full playbook with a guy that I trust to stretch the ball down the field. I saw some crazy numbers today from Jimmy G when he throws the ball past 15 yards. It's really, really bad, man. It really is. So I know it's easy to rag on the head coach when things aren't going well, but I really truly believe he's just handicapped because of Jimmy G.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Your offensive coordinator, his name's slipping my mind right now.
Eric Bieniemy.
Bieniemy. Is he going to get a job anytime soon? What's the deal with that?
I mean, you would think. I mean, The guy's been in the 4 straight AFC Championship games, won the Super Bowls, the offensive coordinator, still can't get a job, man. It's very unfortunate. I'll be remiss to say I think a lot of it has to do with him being black. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we see guys like Nathaniel Hackett getting head coaching jobs, and what has he done? And
Dude,
compare his resume to Eric Bieniemy, he's not even close. Brandon Staley, when he was with the Rams, I mean, I'm just saying, the guy that got fired from the Panthers, Matt Rule, from college, and he gets a job. So it doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't.
Your old QB coach, Mike Kafka, might get a job before him, which is crazy. And he worked under Bieniemy. So he's going to be a hot name here in the next year or two if the Giants continue to do what they're doing. You know how that's going to work. Jude says you're a Jayhawks fan. That's pretty cool. Danny says we can be thankful for a good game tonight. Yeah, I guess. I mean, Thursday nights have been atrocious, but it's better on paper than some of the other ones that we've seen.
Yeah, you got D-Hop back, so that's exciting.
Yeah, speaking of, I got to make sure he's in my fantasy lineup before this game gets going.
Yeah, you better hurry that.
All right, let's get down to brass tacks. I know that you got some things you got to do, and again, I appreciate you giving me time, Mark, but give me a score prediction for this Sunday, and be nice, man.
Oh, man, I'm going to say Chiefs 31-20.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Do you think it's one of those games that is maybe closer than the score indicates, or you think it's just Chiefs are out in front? And okay.
I do. I think like heading to the fourth quarter is like 24-20. Chiefs get a touchdown to kind of give them some separation, and then the Niners just aren't able to answer. I think it's one of those games. And I know Niners fans may be thinking, well, we haven't gave that many points up all year. And I understand that notion, but let's be fair. Look at the quarterbacks you guys have faced all year. Nobody's even close to Patrick Mahomes. You guys have faced Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield. I mean, come on, Marcus Mariota. Like, none of those guys are even top half of the league right now, except Geno Smith. That's the best quarterback you faced all year, Geno Smith.
They shut him down, though.
Yeah,
he wrote back that game, I'll tell you that. Yeah, you're right. I'll say that. I will say I think the 49ers defense is legit. I don't know how legit it will be this week because they are possibly without both starting corners. Mosley's already done for the year. You got Charvarius Ward, who's questionable. We'll see. But if he doesn't play, you're literally down your 2 starting corners. Hufunga's iffy. This is Ward's first game back. This is not the same defense, and they're still missing both defensive tackles in Kinlaw and Armstead. If this was a healthy defense, I'd be like, all right, we got something. We're going to cook here with some bacon grease. We're going to have a fight on our hands. I still think the game can be close. I don't think it'll be as high scoring as what you said. I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win 23-17. I think it's one of those games that it's just going to be tight throughout. But at the end of the day, to your point, Patrick Mahomes versus Jimmy G is ultimately what it comes down to. And this has been my concern all season. And we low-key saw it a little bit last week. Can Jimmy G-led offense win shootouts against really good quarterbacks? Well, last week they didn't play a really good quarterback, but they got in a situation where they had to put up points, and they just could not manufacture points. This week, we'll see. Kyle Shanahan, I imagine this, Mark. I could see a scenario where the 49ers come out hot, they move the ball like crazy, have a great first drive, maybe put up 7, and everybody's like, all right, we're good. And then they slow it down because Shanahan always does a great job of scripting plays. Jimmy Garoppolo does a great job of executing on that. And then after that, it just seems to fall apart. Do not be surprised if the 49ers start out hot, 7-0, and then that's it. They fizz out and they can't figure it out. So that's kind of my prediction for the game. Mark, is there anything that you want to plug before you get out of here, man?
You guys can follow me on social media at Twitter and Instagram, both at Mark A. Gunnels. That's where I post all my content, my articles for Arrowhead Pride, everything, my Twitter spaces. I'm also a contributor for Lakers Nation. I'm sure there's a lot of Laker fans in the Niners faithful as well. Probably more Warriors fans. I'm sure
Warriors
fans in there as well. So I have content Lakers Nation as well. So yeah, just follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll see it all.
Absolutely, Mark. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to continue the show. I'm going to do a call in here for the next half hour, 45 minutes or so, just to kind of get the pulse on the fan base. I appreciate you for making this work. I know that we did some gymnastics to get this thing done, but if somehow the 49ers and the Chiefs link up in the Super Bowl, do I have your word that we can do this again?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Perfect, man. All right. You have a great night. Stay blessed. Take care of your kiddo.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Later. All right, y'all. I just put the link in the chat. Let me change this up here. We don't need all that. All right, we're good to go. Yeah. All right, cool. So I put the link in the chat. You guys can come on and talk if you want. I figured we haven't done a call-in show in a while, and I just thought it would be a good time to give some time back, figure this out. We were supposed to do Behind Enemy Lines last night. We usually do it every Wednesday. And then Thursday, I planned on doing a call-in show anyways. Mark was unable to do it. Had some things come up last minute. No big deal. We pushed it tonight. And since we're a little bit earlier than what we normally go on, I figured we can still do a call-in if you guys want to do it. If not, no big deal. And we can move on. But I also want to say this. The channel as a whole, for those of you that rock with Last Second Sports, I don't know how many saw the community tab, but I want to start doing something a little bit different. And not in terms as far as the shows or anything like that, but once a month. I initially talked about once a week, but somebody in the community tab talked about maybe once a month would be better, but doing like a charity show where we do a 2-hour call-in, just have people come on, talk 49er football, and during that time, instead of having super chats and donations, to me, what you can do is we'll have a donations tab for like a St. Jude's Hospital or something like that. So I want everybody who rocks with Last Second Sports and it's in the chat to just wrap your mind around that. I think the first one that we're going to do is going to be the Rams game here in a couple weeks. So just keep your mind on that. If for some reason you're thinking about doing a super chat that week or in the next coming weeks, save the money and do it that week and donate it instead of sending it to me. So I'm working on how to figure that out. It's something that I want to set up. And it sounds like something that I can do through YouTube where there's just a direct link. So it's not like the money goes to me and then I got to figure out how to get it to this organization. We just choose an organization and then you don't donate while we're live. And so I think that's something that we're going to start doing once a month. Just start giving back. I mean, that's what the platform's for. I do it because I enjoy it. I never once thought that money would ever come out of this. And since it has, I feel like what a better way to give back and just as a community, make a difference in some people's lives. So that's the plan going forward. Just want to give you a heads up on what we're looking to do. I do have a couple people ready to hop on though. We're going to go to, let's see, we're going to go to Hadiz, it looks like. What's up, Hadiz?
How's it going, Jesse?
Going good, man. How you been?
I've been pretty good. These games have been odd to say the least.
Brutal.
Up and down, yes.
Hey, your mic is not your mic, but your headphones are cracking. StreamYard does this sometimes. Leave and come back, and I'll get you back in. I'll go to CJ, and then I'll come back to you, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right, CJ, we're going to come to you. What's up, CJ?
What's going on, Jessie?
Not much, man. How you been?
Been trying to hang in there with this team, man. I mean, I went to the Carolina game live because I live in North Carolina. So they did my heart good to make up for my Chicago experience because those were my 2 games I went to this year. And
at least you're 1-1. I know a lot of people that went to Chicago and then went to Atlanta, and they are having a poor experience right now. So I feel a little bad for them.
Yeah, I'm glad that I made the right choice because there was a debate because I'm on the East Coast where I was going to go to the Carolina game or whether I was going to go to the Atlanta game, and I chose the Carolina game, and that was beautiful football, a lot of it. There was some hiccups here and there that could have got us in trouble in the second quarter going into the half because it was like 10-3 and we drove and had to drive stall. And then they got the ball back, and then we got that pick 6, and then it was 17-3, and then it was just off to the races after that. And it just seemed like one of those typical Niner games a short time there, but I'm glad it turned out okay. But the Atlanta game, there's a lot of fire Kyle Shanahan, and
for sure.
And then that I was there. I wasn't there, but I was real upset Sunday and Monday. But when the tape came out and then I started getting through it, I realized there was a lot of good play calls made, and there was just a lot of execution issues. And what we can't figure out with Kyle Shanahan is the two things: the injuries that we can't figure out, and also the execution from our players is what we can't figure out. And do you got any ideas of what's causing these two things, or how we can bridge the gap? Because it seems like a conundrum at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the consensus. Is anytime somebody breaks down or watches film, the players are always there. They're either open and Jimmy doesn't see him, or the play's designed to go somewhere else and somebody on the backside just happens to break free, or Jimmy makes a great throw like he did a couple times last week and there's just drops. There's always something going on, and I just feel like Kyle Shanahan, where he lacks is in some of the attention to detail things, some of the head coaching duties. So a lot of people talk about clock management and those types of things, but one of the things that I look at though is putting your team in the best position to be successful. If you have a player that's a good blocker, then let him block. If you have a player that can catch and has good hands, let him do that. And I'm referring to Warner and Dwelly. Warner is a blocking tight end. I get the thought process of, oh, well, if we put Warner out there who's a blocking tight end, chances are he's going to be able to break free up the seam because nobody's going to be paying attention to him. I can make the argument that it would probably be the same with Dwelly because, yes, Dwelly is a pass-catching tight end. However, it's not like he is the best weapon on the team. You had 3 or 4 other options that defenses are going to key in on. Dwelly probably still gets open, and Dwelly, I know it sounds like I'm joking when I say it, but Dwelly might have the best hands on the team. This man does not drop footballs. He's not the best route runner. He's not the most explosive, but he can catch the ball, and he will do it in traffic, and he always comes down with it. So why wasn't Dwelly in that position? Why, when we look at this running game, if it's not working to the level that they're hoping, why not try the rookies? I know that Shanahan doesn't like to play rookies a lot of the time, but what's the worst that can happen? Right now, you have running backs that aren't consistently explosive. They aren't holding on to the football. That's like the worst thing that can happen if you put in a rookie. So it stays the same. That's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is, wow, these guys have fresh legs. They are explosive. They make big plays. They're better than we thought. Why not try those things out? I don't understand why Kyle sometimes seems unwilling to just change it up.
Yeah, I guess do some personnel changes. I think because I think we had 4 explosive pass attempts in the game that I can recall. 2 of them were drops by people who probably shouldn't be in that position. Like I agree. The other 2 was Brandon Ayuk was involved in them, and Brandon just seemed to wanted to leave his feet before probably a step too soon, and it looked kind of weird that he was coming down as the ball was arriving and stuff like that. And then the other one, we get an explosive 39-yard play
Penalty.
and it's penalty on Jake Brendel. And so instead of we're on the opposite side of the field, we're back on our own 13 again. And Brendel committed 2 more of these penalties, by the way, on that same drive. And then we had a missed block by Aaron Banks that shows up on tape. That if he gets his block, Debo has a very, very big play on that drive too.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think I feel encouraged that when you look at the film, it just doesn't. It's not evident of that Atlanta just kicked our behinds in that game. It was just. And I can't absolve the defense either, even though they were backups. I mean, I guess backups are not going to make ideal plays, but allowing Marcus to scramble on that 3rd and 13, Womack being out of, I think it was either Womack or it was Odom, one or the other on that read option where Mariota ran for the end zone. He totally crashed inside and totally gave up his responsibility. Womack playing not the good position on tight end and getting burned for a touchdown. So it's just there's execution issues that I believe that if we could clean up and just put it all together in the Kansas City game, this just be the anomaly game that we're about to have, where none of these players make these mistakes.
Yeah, I hope so, CJ. Man, and it's crazy. The defense didn't do the best job. They couldn't really stop the run. I predicted, Grant and I do the over-under show, and I always set the rushing, defensive rushing at 90.5 yards. And this was the week where I was like, no, Atlanta's getting way over that. The defense is not what it should be. There's too many injuries. Something has to give. They're going to give up a lot of rushing yards this game. Even with that said, they still gave up less points than what Atlanta averages. I completely forgot in doing the post game until somebody brought it to my attention in the chat that the offense gave up 7 points. The offense had net 7 points, and the defense gave up 21. What more could we ask from them? I really don't understand it. So yes, the defense wasn't up to the task the way it normally would. In fact, even with the offense playing as bad as it did, the defense, if it was healthy, might have still been able to win that game. I do understand that, but it did enough to win the game, and the offense just couldn't get it together, man.
And one thing of note is Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta scored any more points after the 7-minute mark of the third quarter. I don't think nobody scored any points. I don't think after about the 7-minute mark of the third quarter, there was no more points. I think it stayed 28-14 the rest of the game.
Because the 49ers went on that long drive too in the fourth quarter. Yeah, you might be right about that. And the 49ers either 26th or 28th in second half scoring. It's not good. CJ, I appreciate the call, man. I got a couple people lining up, so I'm going to get to them. Appreciate you as always. Thank you for supporting the channel. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right, man.
All right. Okay. We're going to go to, and I'm going to put up the timer for these ones. So Hadiz is back. We're going to go Hadiz, Wolf, and Rohan. And we'll do the 5-minute timer since we got people lining up just to keep it fair. And that way people aren't waiting forever. And what up, Hadiz?
How's it going, Jessie? Is the
much better? Much better. Okay. Yes. It's StreamYard, man. It always does weird things like that. I don't understand it.
No, I got you. I was almost going to talk about the game, but I felt like CJ almost perfectly talked about it. But I want to exaggerate a couple things about the game because there was two things that made me upset. So I don't know if you remember in week 3 when Diamador Lenore started, everyone's like, why is Samuel Womack benched? What happened? And I think in this game, you got a good sense of why. It's his production just dropped. I mean, it's unfair because Kyle Pitts is really good. And his contain on Marcus Mariota, it wasn't the best. But I was just wondering in my head, what was he doing? Because on the 3rd and goal, you got to maintain. You have to go out and set the edge. But the touchdown there, it was disappointing. And then, I mean, the touchdown given up to Pitts, he had no help on Pitts. So I don't know if that's really his fault, but he was just in a bad spot. And it's really tough to say that the game was put on him. Aside from that, I actually liked how the defense played while being really injured. They stopped Atlanta to 21 points in the 3rd quarter. So they did their part, although they had their mess ups, but that's not the 11-man defense we had in the preseason. This is a battered down defense. And I was upset at Givens a lot too. Just he opened up so many lanes for Atlanta's running backs to run through, and it was upsetting. But you kind of have to remember that he's not a starter on this team, so he doesn't know how to fill in these gaps. So it was upsetting, but I don't think it was on the defense's fault. I know a lot of people are defending the defense, and I am too, but to a certain degree, that was not right. I wish D'Amico Ryans came up to Samuel Womack and told him, because in the 4th quarter, you didn't see Mariota run at all. It was strictly I think they had 2 drives in the 4th quarter, and they didn't do anything.
Yeah, they were short-lived drives, too, because the 49ers ate up a big chunk of that fourth. I mean, what, 8 minutes on the one drive? I mean, that took up over half the 4th quarter. Yeah.
Urgency, right?
Yeah. That's you know what? I think that's another thing, too, it is. is we talked about Shanahan's clock management. I think that it showed up in the first half. It's funny because I tweeted something along the lines of, well, you know, it looks really great in the box score when you have this dink and dunk offense. Everybody's getting good numbers and statistics, but when you have to score in a minute and you've got a timeout, you're not going to be able to score if you can't throw past the line of scrimmage. And everybody's like, oh, chill out. You don't, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, 2 quarters later, we get to the fourth quarter, and it's the same exact thing. They can't get it past the line of scrimmage. It feels like they cannot move the ball downfield. And so dink and dunk, here you go, 8 minutes, and you don't score any points. It showed up in the first half too. People just kind of let it pass by. But once they saw that 8-minute drive and came away with no points, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is a problem.
When I was looking at the 8-minute drive, I was actually somewhat happy on how it went. I know no points were scored, but they were driving down the field. They weren't held back behind the 50-yard line. They kept going. But on a 3rd and 2, why would you run it with Coleman? In that scenario, the perfect run play is to the wide back, to Deebo Samuel. I just don't understand why you put Coleman in. I get why you don't put Jeff in because he fumbled the ball. I get that. And I was looking at that play. I was like, what? What are we doing? This is almost 3rd and 1. If anything, drive it up the middle, get a nice short 4th and 1, and do what Jimmy Garoppolo does best. Quarterback sneak it. But they didn't do that. They didn't even run an outside run or like a stretch run. They just ran a toss. Too predictable at the line. It was really disappointing. But to go back to your argument, in the first quarter, I thought the Niners did well on offense, keeping up with Atlanta. And that's really disappointing to say. But, you know, they were 14-14 heading into half. That interception by Garoppolo, I mean, I would have given it to Ayuk in the middle of the field. But I guess you want to see if you can get a pass interference. So I can see that. But in the third quarter, right, the opening drive, why are we still giving it to Jeff Wilson Jr.? After a running back usually fumbles, you don't see him get another handoff, right? So then it's another running back getting the ball, right? That was the perfect opportunity to put Jordan Mason in. If not Jordan Mason, I mean, I would have said Tevin Coleman as well, but come on, Jordan Mason should have taken at least 1 rep in the third quarter. Why not, right? And if your excuse to Wilson because he has a shoulder injury is, oh, he was injured, we gave the running back to Jordan Mason. And even if he fumbled and messed up, you could blame that he's a rookie. But no. And it was disappointing because when I saw the urgency in the fourth quarter, I was like, Kyle looks like he knows he's going to get the ball back. Kyle he's not even worried about the time. He's just like, yeah, we're going to get that ball back. And I was like, dude, you can't play with that type of mindset because the defense messed up on some of these runs. You have to take advantage of everything. And I was so disappointed in some of the drops this game. But in the first drop to Ray McCloud,
we lost. We lost Hadiz. It's all right. I was about to pull him anyways because we hit our 5 minutes. That was a great call per usual by Hadiz. I mean, I don't know if he said anything that I don't agree with. I think for Wilson, if Jeff Wilson, if that was Mason or TDP, they would have been pulled immediately. That would have been it. We know because rookies don't get that chance if they make those mistakes. They don't get a chance to come back unless that's your only option. But because it's Wilson who's had a fumbling issue and has fumbled. I mean, he fumbled in the Denver game to close that out, fumbled in this game. He continues to get chances. And I'm not saying Wilson's not good or doesn't deserve any runs, but just try something different. For gosh sakes. All right, we're going to go to Wolf. What's up, Wolf?
Hey, bro. Good to see you, man. Good to be face-to-face with you. But
yes, sir.
I wanted to say, man, because I watched your live stream with Ryan, the little interview you guys were doing.
Yeah.
And, I was just going to let you know, like, it was cool to see you guys in a different light, man, because that interview, it was, it kind of hit home for me. So I just want to let you know, like, it was cool to see you guys in a different light. But,
I appreciate that, man. And it's funny because we do, we talk 49ers all the time and go on. I feel like lately, at least, I've been doing like 8-9 shows a week, just trying to go on other people's shows and give back the way that people have given to me. And so it's always 49ers, which I love. Obviously this is what I enjoy doing or I wouldn't do it. But when you get to talk about something different, it's nice to just have that change of pace.
Yeah, 100%, because we're human beings at the end of the day, man. So it was pretty cool, man. I never would have thought, like similar kind of backstory. So that was cool, man. But, I want to get your thoughts on the defense, man, because honestly, I am confident that with the pieces that DeMeco Ryans has, what he had last year and what he was able to do last year with what he had, I think even in the Falcons game, towards the end of the game, the defense started clicking better. And the Falcons were in my eyes, they were playing pretty conservative the whole game, but just the defense started to click more and more as the game went on, I think. So I'm confident about that even if Womack plays outside, which I don't think he should have been the outside guy, but I want to get your thoughts on it.
Sorry, you cut out there for a second, at least on my end. Go ahead and just repeat the last part of that.
So I didn't think Womack should have been the guy on the outside.
Okay.
I don't know if that's where it cut off, but I want to just get your thoughts on the confidence of the whole defense moving forward with DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, I mean, my confidence is pretty high. Maybe not this week because Kansas City stuff. I think that Womack and Lenore can both play inside or out. I think that Womack's frame maybe fits outside a little bit better just because he has the long arms and he did play a lot of outside in college as well. But I think you could go either or on that one. I think that's a position that you don't want to be in. Ideally for me, it sounds crazy, but I'd rather play Dante Johnson outside. I just trust him a little bit more, right? And he's the guy that just doesn't seem to go away. Every time you think he's getting cut, he's right back. But at this stage, I trust him to play outside a little bit more. I certainly trust Womack and Lenore to play that nickel spot. But ideally, if Verrett's healthy, then you got him on one side, you got Ward on the other, and then Dante Johnson's kind of that other outside guy, or even maybe Ambry Thomas. If it's the Ambry Thomas from last year and we can get that guy back, I'm comfortable with that as well, especially with these safeties. But yeah, I don't think it's ideal. And I think what happened was you just had a team that was really injured, and then they got more injured and people had to play out of position all over the place. They end up running coverages that they're used to running with great players in position, and it doesn't go well or it goes awry because you've got somebody in there that's not used to playing and they give up a big play. And I think that started really early in the game with the crosser on the first third down. That's a play that the 49ers have not been giving up all year long. And once I think Hufanga had just gone out, Ward had gone out as well, and all of a sudden Odom's on the field, and here you go. So,
yeah, man, we could go on for hours on this, but like 2 out of the 3 touchdowns were scored on Womack. They definitely picked on him.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought he should have been the guy. Like I said, we could go on and on about it, but I want to know, because I think this should be a coming out party for Kittle, man. Kelsey's getting all this shine right now. It's always been a big debate. Now's the time to come and show the world. Like, Vernon Davis is going to be there. Delaney Walker just retired. He's going to have time to be there. So, man, you better put up or put out, man. Like, come on, dude. Now's the time, Kittle, if there were any.
Greg Olson's calling the game too. Another tight end. And I think it's National Tight Ends Day. So it is the time to show up. And he has a little Carolina. It started out good. It was his birthday. Then he had the fumble. Last week the numbers weren't bad. At least they started to target him. Hopefully they're able to get him involved because he's such a big part. And maybe, to your point, Wolf, maybe Trent Williams coming back is the difference maker and allowing him to be free to actually go out and just actually make those plays.
Not staying inside and blocking. I'm going to let you go because I saw the 5-minute mark. But
right, bro. Real
quick, man, I got my channel going. I would love for you to come on. If I know you're a busy man, but if you ever get the chance, man, I got you on Twitter.
Just
I'm on Niner Game.
DM me. Just DM me.
Okay.
We'll make it happen. I promise. That's great, man. I would love to support you in any way that I can. If you have any questions, you can always reach out, and 100% we'll link up and make something happen. Just DM me.
Appreciate it, brother. Take care, man.
All right, Wolf. Have a good one. All right, we're gonna go to. I don't even know how I'm gonna let this guy on my channel. To be honest with you, this is a guy that I can't stand this guy, but he called in, so I guess we're gonna. What is that? Your pointer finger? I'm confused. All right. Well, Rohan, what's up, man?
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
And yeah, that was actually my ring finger because I was showing you off my my new like really expensive ring that my friend bought me.
Oh, okay. That's what I was confused. The light, I was like, is that his pointer? Is that okay. All right, that makes sense.
No, I know how confused you can get. And really the only reason I'm coming on here is because you don't respond to my texts anymore. And so I'm trying to like you keep talking this talk on Twitter about you being like loyal to everybody, but you don't respond to my text, and specifically only my text. So, I had to come on and put you in your place.
Yeah, it's a little awkward when we're in a text thread and I don't respond to you, but I respond to everybody else. That's certainly by design for sure.
Well, thank you. But no, talking seriously now, just not to waste your time because you're such a valuable guy that you don't respond to people. It's kind of coincidental, right? Like last week we were talking about the secondary and how we're going to have this great duo of Charvarius Ward and Jason Verrett. Then comes the news of Jason Verrett being out last week, having to be reevaluated. And now we're talking about potentially having a game where you have Jason Verrett on the field and no Charvarius Ward. I want to kind of get your thoughts on the secondary and what you kind of think of what could happen this weekend if Charvarius Ward doesn't play because he hasn't practiced the last 2 days.
Disaster. Rohan, I'm terrified because this will be Jimmy Ward's, technically it's his first game. Yes, he played a play on defense and was out. It sounds like he had already had the broken hand, but he hasn't played all season. You've got Verrett, who hasn't played since the beginning of last season, and we saw the last time he came back from a major injury, I believe it was the Dolphins
Detroit
game?
Lions.
Oh, Detroit
Lions.
No, not the Detroit game. No. It was the year prior where they had put him in.
You're talking about when he came in from injury. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So got absolutely torched. I don't know, man. I don't trust it, and we don't know what's going to happen with Hufanga, but I'm worried. And you're playing against arguably the best quarterback in the league,
right?
Against the best pass catching tight end in the league, the number one offensive mind in the league. No, I don't feel good about it. I really don't. What about you?
I mean, this week was interesting, right? Marcus Mariota only had 14 passes, completed 13 of them. I wasn't too disappointed in how our secondary played. Obviously, with Wolf, you outlined the injuries, right? Talanoa Hufanga was initially in concussion protocol, then came in. Obviously, George Odom came in. Tashawn Gibson was there. You lose Charvarius Ward as well for a period of time. That first touchdown was essentially Michael Pruitt mossing George Odom. It was a 2-yard score. They were probably going to score anyway, but a moss. And then the second touchdown, like Wolf mentioned, was just Kyle Pitts beating Samuel Womack on a regular slant, in which Charvarius Ward, or a quarterback of his caliber, be it Emmanuel Mosley, doesn't give up that space and probably deflects that easy pass. So it was easy for Marcus Mariota to operate in the air, but again, we don't really know how easy it was in general if the 49ers have positive game script at the line of scrimmage. They were dominating at the line of scrimmage, and the run game was really what forced the 49ers to be aggressive and even put their safeties at times in one-on-one coverage. Gibson gave up that long 37-yard catch because he was in one-on-one coverage against a wide receiver. So I'm interested to see with a weaker run game in Kansas City, can San Francisco shut it down? Can they recoup? And if so, will that give them a little more balance against the pass?
Yeah, and normally if you have some injuries in the secondary with the way that the pass rush is on this team and the defensive line, you're not as worried, but they're not exactly healthy there either. Bosa missed a week with a groin injury. It sounds like he's going to play, which is great, but does he tweak it? I don't know. You're without Armstead, or you're without Kinlaw. The pass rush is going to be good, but it's still not as good as it could be with those types of players in. So they're just missing good players at every level. And going against a team like Kansas City, it's just not a place that you want to be, especially against a coach that is a true offensive genius in Andy Reid.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Shots
True
fired. I
offensive
know. Yeah.
genius. Yeah. Oh man, look at the Shanahan hater over here. Everybody pile on him. You should see the text that he does send me. He does hate on Shanahan a lot. He's just jealous. That's what it is. But no, I mean, you're right. Like Andy Reid he just does a wonderful job in scheming his guys open. Travis Kelsey over the middle of the field as a target, and so it's going to put our linebackers in a bit of a pickle this week. I'd assume the Kansas City Chiefs are going to probably try and target Dre Greenlaw. The 49ers also did play a good amount of base package last week with the injuries that they faced. Oren Burks was out there on 45% of the defensive snaps. Do they look to target Oren Burks in coverage? That's not a strong suit. If so, that could be another a positive for obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. And the biggest question is, how does the cornerback situation get fixed, right? You had Lenore on the outside last week. Womack came in after Ward got out. You're probably going to have Verrett on one side, but do you move Lenore back in? What do you do in that kind of situation as well? Kind of what are your thoughts for that?
I got to imagine that they want to keep it. You don't want to move people around, especially in the secondary. I got to imagine that if they can keep Lenore inside, you do that. And then either Verrett or Dante Johnson on one side. Hopefully Ward's playing. If he's not, then you got to go Verrett one side. That's going to be a guarantee. And then you got to go Womack or Dante Johnson, whatever you're most comfortable with. Or it's not going to be Ambry. I don't know what happened to him. That poor kid, man. Yeah, it sucks. But yeah, I would imagine I would try to keep Lenore inside. At least you've got some sort of continuity. And I think last week when Hufanga went out, that forced Odom to have to play a lot. And some of these other guys just, it's not ideal. They were playing a lot of big nickel, which is never ideal when you're down to, I don't know, your third best safety on the team and fourth best safety on the team. So hopefully with Ward being there, even though he won't be able to intercept passes, the coverage is better. And if Hufanga can play, then you're in even a better spot. And some of those back end coverage things won't be an issue. And then really it's just, okay, we got the defensive line. They're humming. They're mostly healthy. We got a good linebacking core. The back end of the defense is good to go. The corners are a little bit iffy, but everything around them is good enough to where we can kind of disguise this a little bit.
I think that's a fair point. And kind of my last question to you, because I wanted to get your thoughts on it before I head out. Jaquaski Tart had an interview with Arvish Kumaran yesterday. A great interview for those who haven't watched it. So be sure to watch that. But the key point of it was about injuries and how he said how the Philadelphia Eagles run things very differently than the 49ers. When you look at injury charts, the Eagles ranked number 1 and the 49ers ranked number 32 this year. What were your thoughts kind of on his comments when given the context behind it?
That threw me for a loop because I had always heard the opposite, Rohan, is that the 49ers, back in Harbaugh's day, they would go really, really tough, and then they would curtail it as the season got going to keep guys healthy. And I heard that Shanahan was a guy who was really, really easy, and then as the season went on, he would ramp it up. And I was like, God, that's so bass-ackwards. Like, that's kind of crazy. But it sounds like he does seem to take the approach of a Harbaugh, but maybe in today's game where you just don't have, as much tackling and those types of things that you could do, the practices can't go as long. There's so many rule changes with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the route. Whatever Philly's doing, it's worth a try. But again, Shanahan does these things, and that's my biggest concern with Shanahan is I feel like he's so stubborn. He's just unwilling to change. And especially if he hears he should change, he's like, no way I'm changing. I'm doing exactly what I want to do around here.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I have one training camp under my belt, so I can only go off this one. And I don't know how other teams operate. Only players really know that. But to me, I thought this year he kind of did ramp it back compared to expectations from previous years in that there were a couple of non-padded practices. The practices did go shorter on days. There was only one really long day. But in somewhat of a backwards loop, players were getting injured on off days and then coming back. That first day coming back, that's where they were getting injured. And so to me, I don't know what the semblance is, but that really needs to be fixed because you had a problem before. And even if it changed, if you try to formula change this offseason, you have a problem right now. And there were a ton of injuries in the offseason. coming off those one-off days. And so I wonder what the fix is.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it is too. And like I said, from everything I heard and it sounds like Tart actually thought the same thing, because the way that he phrased it was, "Oh, I thought that Shanahan really did a good job of keeping people healthy, and the way that he ran things, he didn't go that hard." But then I got to Philadelphia and realized, man, Shanahan's going a lot tougher on this team than probably a lot of the league is, or at least Philly is. That was kind of a surprise to him, I think, as well, the way that he spoke about it. That's what I gathered from it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I won't take too much more of your time. I know you got I'd assume you got
I mean, just take 10 minutes because you're big dicking everybody around here. Not a surprise, Rohan.
Well, you don't respond to my texts. I got to get my 10 minutes in somehow. Screw you.
All right.
I love you.
All right, Rohan. I love you too, buddy.
Appreciate you.
Later. All right, this next name I'm gonna butcher. I already know. Is it Jagwayo 56? Wagwayo 56? I don't know. He's gonna have to correct me on this one, but he's been waiting a long time. He or she. Appreciate you doing so. What's up?
Hey, what's up? It's Jagwayo.
Jagwayo. Gosh, dang it. Okay,
it's
all
okay.
right.
It's all right.
You know what? I feel like this is the second time you've called in, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew it. And I think the first time I actually got it right. How did I regress? That's terrible.
Hey, it's okay. After the Atlanta loss, maybe your brain hasn't quite gotten back to normal. No, it's cool.
Oh man, what's up? How you been?
Pretty good. And yourself?
I've been good, man. I've been really good. Blessed. Obviously, the 49ers season hasn't gone as planned, but there's still a lot of football left, and I really think the 49ers are still going to win this division. So I'm still excited for 49er football.
Yeah, me too. And on the positive things that I've seen so far is, I was really apprehensive about the offensive line coming into the season because there was question marks with Banks. There was question marks with Ken Burford pick it up as a rookie, with Brendel and McGlinchey too, because I was worried, can McGlinchey come back? It was a bad injury, and overall they've been a bright spot. I mean, like, Banks hasn't given up a sack. Burford has come in and out. But one thing that I wanted to ask you is, what do you think of Brunskill going forward? How do you think they're going to use him, or what do you think?
Man, that one's a tough one, because I think that he's just going to be like the next man up off the bench, because he can play most of those positions. So if that's the case, you want somebody versatile coming off the bench. You don't want to start him at, let's say, right guard, and then somebody else goes down at right tackle. Now you're doing a whole shuffle thing. I don't know. I think for him, they're probably just going to allow him to be the backup, unless they just think that Brendel, who I would say out of all the guys that you talked about with that offensive line, I would say that that's the one real question mark. Maybe they can insert him, but that's not a natural position for him. And I know that he did struggle with snapping in the offseason. So we'll see how that goes. But I agree with you, man. I think the offensive line's done a good job. I think Banks doing a good job is huge, because people really seemed to write him off last year. They talked about, just how he almost was running in quicksand. He just couldn't move his feet. He was playing out of position, and it just didn't look good. And I don't think that was people killing him. I think that was people just telling us exactly how it is. And the way that he's been able to turn it around, lose the weight, and now he's gone this season without giving up a sack or even a real pressure. It's absolutely incredible. You got to give him a lot of kudos, because he's replacing a Pro Bowl player.
Yeah, and also, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Zakel? You think that maybe they're grooming him to hopefully be a center?
Yeah, that's what I gather. That's exactly what I gather, is that they are grooming him to be the center. That's kind of the vision for him. That being said, it sounded like they were grooming Jalen Moore to be a guard, and he's only played tackle, so who knows?
Yeah, Jalen Moore, he's improved a little bit since the Denver game. He seems to have kind of straightened it out a little bit. And the other thing, yeah, I mean, I'm worried about against the Chiefs, but the receivers, you know, Jimmy doesn't really go deep that much, and when he does, they have to take advantage. And I was just disappointed in the drops against Atlanta, but I have to give props to Atlanta. It seems like with Arthur Smith, it seems like they're more buttoned up. They're more organized. They're really on point. And maybe we just lost to a team that was just prepared and hungry, and but that happens. And against the Chiefs, so the offense has to make long drives, keep Mahomes on the sidelines, and they got to score touchdowns. They cannot go in there and score like a field goal, and then that's because otherwise, you know how KC is, and so I'm kind of worried about our defense. You know, all the injuries, but you know, if okay, we have to score at least 28 points, I think. And
okay.
I'm giving it 28-27. We're going to win. We're going to have the biggest upset so far this year. And I think that's going to catapult us into the Ram game, where I think we can beat the Rams, and we'll be, 5-3 at the break?
Man, that would be incredible. If the 49ers win this game, that wipes away all the stench from the Falcons game. 100%. It absolutely does. And you're right. I think we do have to give the Falcons a little bit of credit. I knew going into that game it was not going to be a cakewalk. I had the 49ers winning, I think, by 3, 20-17. And I really feel like a lot of the fan base knew that game was going to be closer than the Carolina game was.
Yeah.
And the Falcons just came out and did it. Yes, the 49ers had injuries. The Falcons weren't the healthiest either. They just got it done. And sometimes that happens. You're playing against guys that are paid to play football. Sometimes the answer isn't what's wrong with your team. It's, well, the other team just did a lot of things right. So I agree with you. But man, to beat the Chiefs, that would be huge. I love the optimism. I'm not quite there, but I'm not the best at picking some of these games. So the fact that I'm picking against the Niners actually bodes well for them.
Well, that's like reverse psychology, maybe. but anyway, I won't take any more of your time. I really appreciate all the effort and the hard work that you do to give the faithful, really level-headed perspective on all the games and your analysis. I love your guests, and you be safe and you stay blessed. And we'll talk to you some other time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. It means the world to me. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, man. You take care.
Bye-bye. I got Mike tapping in. He says, Jessie, listening or watching is a great vibe compared to other so-called content. Seems more like a real fan point of view. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think here's the thing. One thing you're always going to get from me is authenticity. I'm always going to be 100% honest, Mike, how I feel in that moment. And I also am willing to change my mind if the moment changes. That being said, I think it depends on when you catch me, because I feel like there are a lot of people, I won't say I know there are a lot of people that think I'm a Debbie Downer when it comes to this team, but I'm just trying to kick it real. And I am a fan. I'm coming from a fan perspective. I've been able to insert myself in the community, get to know a lot of great people, probably get to know this team a little bit more from an inside perspective than I ever imagined. And so I do come from a space of maybe a little bit more knowledge than what I used to have going into things. But ultimately, I'm a fan of this team, and that's where my heart lies. And so if I'm telling you something, I'm just telling you how I feel in the moment. That's how I fan. And I think that everybody deserves to be a fan however they want. Some people want to be super optimistic. Some people are pessimistic all the time. Your only job as a fan is to root for the team that is on the field when they play the games. Outside of that, what you think about this team, how you talk about this team, how you critique this team, that is all fair game, and everybody deserves the opportunity to do that and do that freely without being called a clown or not being a fan and those types of things. And so I'm just going to keep it real. I'm positive that sometimes you're not going to like my takes, but I hope you stick around regardless. I'm just going to kick it as real as I can. But that being said, in about 45 minutes, I'm going to be going on with Aaron on 49ers First Takes. And I want to watch the beginning of this Arizona game. And also, I got to make sure that Hopkins is in my lineup because he's playing for the first time in a while. So, that being said, y'all stay blessed. We will be back for the post game this Sunday. Go